homemade traditional Peruvian dessert, alfajores, basket of ham, beef, turkey, veggie gourmet sandwiches. Call Giveaways Catering, phone number 778-245-3007. Welcome to the Immigrants Magazine's program. Employment segment played an important role in this year 2015 with Gwen Pawlikowski.
Today we're going to talk about job searching tips, especially networking. Now, you will hear so many employment facilitators and employment counselors talking about networking and how it's really, really important. And the reality is that it is the most likely way that people find work. And this applies to everyone, whether you're a newcomer or whether you're someone who's been born and raised in Canada. The most likely way that you're going to find a job is through your network. And the reason is that your network is the place where you will mostly find information, and information is your most critical asset in job search. So information is really important. You probably want to know which companies and which industries can best use your skills. And the way to find that, of course, is by researching. So probably Google is the best place for you to start, but Google and the internet won't give you the most up-to-date information. And by that I mean the information like who might be going on a maternity leave in a company where you'd like to work, or who might be planning to retire in a company where you'd like to work. Or maybe someone who's decided to take a year off and go traveling. That's the kind of really new, really current information that you get when you network. And that's super important to your job search. So to get that kind of really new information, you probably can't find that on the internet. You have to go out and talk to people. Now, there's a chance that just by talking with your friends or your family that you'll find that information, but most likely you would already know that. So you probably have to broaden your network somewhat and talk to people who work in those companies where you'd like to be employed. So let's say you want to work at company X. Well, you might want to try to talk to a manager in the department where you'd like to be employed. That would be great, but it might be hard to talk to the manager. Maybe you want to talk to someone who might be a potential coworker. Maybe you want to talk to someone who's doing a job that's similar to the one that you want to do. Talking to those people will give you really, really current information, and it'll give you that knowledge about what's changing in the company. Is the company growing? Is the company expanding? Are new positions being added? Is there maybe some part-time or full-time work coming up? So that's why employment counselors are always saying network, 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 because it's so critical for you to get that really new cutting-edge information. Now, the information that you get on the internet is great too, because eventually you're going to have to send in your resume and you're going to have to eventually have a job interview. And you need to be able to show that you're knowledgeable about the company, that you've read the website, that you know something about the company's mission statement or values or goals. You need to kind of show that you have cared enough. So my recommendations for people who are starting on a job search are to take 10 companies, 10 organizations that are places where you'd like to work. And they could be sort of A-list or B-list, doesn't matter. Start with 10 companies, 10 kind of your top dream companies, A-list or B-list, and really learn about those companies. And then try to get to know people in those companies and try to find out what's happening and what the newest and latest moves are. Sometimes employment counselors will ask you to make a list, and that's, I guess, what I'm saying as well. You can start with 10. Some people will tell you to make more. But the point is, the best way to get the job that you really want, the job that you're really looking for, is not to wait for that ad. Try to get to the company before they even realize that an ad might be needed. Try to find that intelligence or that knowledge that says person X is thinking about retiring or leaving the company, and so that position will become vacant. So try to find out what you can from people in the organizations, and networking is the way to do that. During today's time, I'd like to talk about writing a winner resume. So let me tell you what the first step is. The first step in writing a winner resume is by writing a master resume. A master resume is going to be a long resume that you never ever send to anyone, but it documents every job you've ever done, all your skills, all the marathons you've run, everything in your life. This master resume, though, is a resume that you keep on your computer, and you just pull things from it as you need to. So most people have already written this master resume by the time they start looking for work. So probably you've already done this. After then writing the master resume, the next step is to write a targeted resume. So a targeted resume is what you're going to be sending out to employers. Targeted resume is going to be a lot shorter. It's maybe 1 or 2 pages at most. It's not probably more than 2 pages. If there are other pages, maybe it's a list of publications or something related to a portfolio, but your basic resume is still about 2 pages. Okay. Your winner resume then is targeted, and by targeted, I mean your resume is going to try to match what an employer needs. So you're going to need to know about the employer. You're going to need to do a little bit of research. So let's say you're going to apply to company X. Hopefully you've read the website. Hopefully you've done a Google search on this company and you know something about this company. Maybe you've also networked with someone at this company. So you kind of have an idea about what they want. If there's an advertisement, that helps you a lot too. So you start writing your winner resume by having a lot of knowledge about who your audience is and who's going to read it. So your winner resume is targeted to that particular company. So this winner resume, you're probably going to send to only that company, and then the next time you apply, you're going to write a slightly different winner resume that's going to be targeted to another company that you like, and that resume is going to match what you think they are looking for and what they need. So every resume, you're carefully kind of reconstructing and tweaking and thinking about who's going to read it and what is important to them and what they care about. All right, so your resume is targeted. Now, having said all that, there are particular things in your resume that are going to be the same all the time. So first of all, you need to have really clear contact information at the beginning. So your name should be pretty prominent and easy to read, right? And it should be the name that you probably want to be called when you're at your job. So when I write my resume, I expect probably everyone will call me Gwen, right? So I write Gwen Pawlikowski in the top of my resume, plus my phone number, and plus my LinkedIn URL, okay? And of course email. But those things are enough. I probably don't need to write my mailing address. So just my name, my mobile number, my email, and my LinkedIn URL. That's what I'm going to put on my winner resume. Then I might have either a short objective or short profile, giving a little bit of information about me, and some highlights. Now, I know that every employer will spend just a short amount of time on every resume that he or she looks at. So I want to make sure that I'm writing the most exciting things about me in my highlights section. And highlights will have just a few bullet points, maybe 5 to 7 bullet points. And it's going to say my most relevant education, the years of experience that I have that are relevant to the job that I'm applying for, maybe an important accomplishment I have, again, that's important to the job I'm applying for. And then my work history and education section, they will also be kind of carefully crafted to include just what I think the employer's really concerned with. Just those details that are really interesting. And today I'd like to talk about adapting to the Canadian workplace. Now, if this is your first time working in Canada, you probably will not be at all surprised to know that the people that you see at work are going to be probably very representative of the people that you see walking down any street in downtown Vancouver. And what I mean by this is that your workplace is very likely going to be very diverse. So you'll work with people who may have come from all over the world, and you'll work with people who may speak many different languages, and their English will have all kinds of different accents as well. You'll work with men and women, right? You'll work with people of different sexual orientations. You'll work with people who are able-bodied and people also who may have some kind of disability. The thing about working in the Canadian workplace is that we're all trying to be accepting of everyone else. So one of the things that you'll notice in the Canadian workplace is that people tend to be fairly friendly, especially in the beginning of the week and then toward the end of the week. So it's really common on a Monday morning, for instance, for coworkers to chat for 10 or 15 minutes, maybe while they get their coffee or hang up their coats. It's super common that someone will say to you, "Hey, how was your weekend?" Right? And you're supposed to give, kind of a basic answer, like, "Well, it was good. I went to a movie," or, it was kind of a quiet weekend because it rained all weekend," or whatever, right? Like, not too negative, but we have a lot of rain, so that's always a good topic. And then it's your job to also ask your coworker, "How was your weekend?" Right? So again, ask the question, "How was your weekend?" Your coworker will say yes or no. And then after about 10 minutes, that's it. We go on with our work. And then this all happens again on a Friday afternoon. What are you going to do on the weekend? And so on. All right? So we're kind of polite and respectful about people's personal time. We do ask about it, but we don't, invade people's private lives too much. So, for instance, we're not asking someone, when are you going to have children or anything that personal, right? We're just asking really safe topics like, what are you going to do on the weekend, or have you seen this movie, or whatever, okay? Now, because this might be a little bit different than your previous culture, on this topic and on many, many topics, if you're not sure what to do or what to say in the Canadian workplace, you should know that you should always ask, right? There are lots of things people are confused about when they start working in Canada. For one thing, the Canadian workplace is probably much less formal than a place like Korea, for instance. So there's a good chance that you're going to call your boss by her first name or his first name, right? You're probably not going to call her Ms. or Mrs. something, you're probably going to call her by her first given name, right? Same with your coworkers. Like, almost everyone in the company will be probably called by their first name. We just have that sort of informal atmosphere in the Canadian workplace, and especially here on the West Coast. Again, let me get back to this point. If there's something that you're not clear about, then definitely ask. We have lots of company events, right? Sometimes some companies, people eat lunch together. You know, are you not sure about bringing this or that to a company potluck? Ask someone, right? Find out about it, right? Usually you'll have a coworker or somebody that you're working with, and they're going to be able to give you really helpful, useful, and kind advice, right? I think one of the kind of neat things about being here in Canada is that everybody has some really direct experience with immigration. Maybe our parents or our grandparents have immigrated, or maybe we ourselves have lived in another country and then come here, or been born here and moved and lived in another country. But there's a huge amount of empathy and understanding for people who are new to Canada and who aren't completely sure how to behave. So when you ask, I think you're very, very likely to get a kind and thoughtful answer to your question. So it's the same in the workplace. If you're not sure, you need to ask, even about really serious things like assignments, right? Are you having trouble meeting a deadline for some work that you have, right? Rather than like sitting painfully in your office and waiting for your boss to be angry, it's much better to go to your manager ahead of time and say, could I get an extension because I just can't finish this in time? Or could you ask someone to help me? It's a lot better to ask those questions ahead of time than to not ask and kind of worry and be anxious about what's happening. So those are a couple of things about working in Canada. You're very likely going to be in a team. The team is very likely to be diverse. You're going to be working with people who might be really different from you. But when you have questions, ask them politely, respectfully, and I know that you're going to find a comfortable fit in Canada. That's it for our employment tips segment for today. Today, I'd like to discuss what you can do to prepare for an interview. So the first thing that you need to do when you prepare for an interview is super important. Many people don't do it, and it's a critical error, and that is you have to research the company. So as much as possible, find out what you can. Sometimes you don't have a lot of time, but that's time enough to go to the company website and read everything you can about this company. Do a Google search about this company. Find out everything that you can about the company and try to remember as much as you can. That's super important. If you have a chance, it's wonderful if you can talk with people who already work there to find out a bit about the company, but that doesn't always happen for people. So first and most important thing that you should do is research. If you go in sort of armed with knowledge, it helps you so much. Now, the second thing that you need to do to prepare for an interview is to just prepare yourself, because you want to make sure that you're giving the best personal presentation that you can. All right? So we are not all fashion models, and we all don't wear designer clothes, but you need to prepare so that you have clothes that are maybe like slightly more formal than what you see other people wearing. So if you have a chance to kind of go to the organization the day before your interview and just kind of observe what people are wearing, that's great. Dress a little bit better than those people, okay? Now, if everybody's wearing jeans and t-shirts and running shoes, you probably shouldn't wear like your most excellent suit or your best dress, right? That's going to be too formal, but wear something that's a little bit more formal. And it's never, never, never a good idea to wear jeans to an interview. All right, so save your jeans for after when you want to relax. Okay, so think about your clothes. Make sure that your clothes are pressed or ironed. Make sure that you're wearing things that make you look great. Again, you don't have to be wearing your designer clothes, but just clothes that really give an impression that you care and that you've done everything that you can to prepare for this time. Now, this is probably the same advice that everyone's mother gives them. So I'm going to give it to you too. Just make sure that you look your best, that you're showered, that you've kind of groomed yourself a little bit for the interview. Now, the next thing that you need to prepare after researching and after sort of preparing your personal presentation is you have to prepare your mind, right? So you have to be feeling confident and you have to be kind of feeling ready. Now, that's going to include maybe imagining the questions that someone might ask you. So it's very likely that the employer will ask you to tell about yourself, right? And that means talk for about a minute and give kind of a general summary, not more than a minute. So you can practice that. You can practice talking, very quickly about yourself, how many years of experience you have, what's your relevant education, one or two of your skills, and maybe what you're like as a person, right? That's 45 seconds to a minute of what or who you are, okay? You can also imagine that someone at the company will ask you, why do you want to work here, right? So have that answer ready, right? You know why you want to work there? Practice it, write it down. Like, you don't want to go in and like spout out answers like you're a robot. That's not my point, but anticipate that they're going to ask you particular things. They want to know why you're interested in them. And you should be able to clearly say that and positively say that. And it's a good opportunity for you to show your interest and your enthusiasm about the organization. You can also count on them asking if you have any questions. So at the very end of the interview, they'll probably say, do you have any questions for us? We've asked you so many. So prepare a couple of questions. Ask them what a typical day might be like in the position that you're hiring for, or ask them what might be the challenges of that person's job. There are lots of examples of this, and there are lots of things that I'm sure you'll be curious about after researching the company and thinking about this. Now, one more thing I'm going to tell you about to kind of prepare your confidence is something called a power position. And if you're really interested in this, you can watch a great TED Talk with Amy Cuddy about power positions. But there are particular things we can do, particular like postures where you can just stand, for instance, with your arms out, for instance, for a couple of minutes. And you can do this, maybe just in the washroom or something, just half an hour before your interview. But just stand and kind of try to imagine yourself doing really well in this interview and feeling really comfortable and confident and positive. So building up your confidence and trying to kind of anticipate positive things. Now there's one more thing that you need to do to prepare for your interview, and that is to prepare a reference list. So a reference list should have the names of at least 3 people who are going to say positive things about you from previous work. So probably former supervisors, definitely not anyone who's related to you. Friends are okay, but former supervisors or former coworkers are the best. These can be from volunteer work, that's fine, but people who've seen you in a kind of work capacity. Have a list of those people's names and how they can be easily contacted ready, because at the end of the interview, it's very likely that the interviewers will ask you to leave this list with them, and you want to be prepared and ready. Now, finally, when you leave the interview, be sure to ask for maybe a business card or an email.
Problemas de relaciones interpersonales, separación, divorcio, problemas con niños, adolescentes y adultos.
Soy la doctora Yolanda Montoya, soy Clinical Counselor y mi teléfono es el 604-861-1071.
Of the people who've interviewed you and get the spelling of their names right, write them down so that you can also send them a thank you card. Because within about a day of being interviewed, I want you to send a thank you card to those interviewers, not a thank you card, a thank you email to those interviewers, and basically say thanks for taking the time to talk with me and to find out about me, and if there's any more information I can give you, I'd be happy to. Let me know, okay? That's the kind of thing that you need to say in your thank you email to follow up after the interview. Well, I've talked a lot about the things that you need to do to prepare for an interview, and that's all the time that we have today in this employment segment.